So I call the Community Development Commission meeting to order at 12:00, at 12:01. Will the staff conduct the roll call?
Commissioner Stubbs.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson II.
Here.
Commissioner Tim. Commissioner Cole.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Commissioner Green.
Here.
Commissioner Dean.
Here.
And Commissioner Robledo.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, the first agenda item is the approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Look to me, I would move that we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay. Any opposed?
Oh, ask for a vote.
Okay. All those in favor of the approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. I'll turn it over to the staff for scheduled business.
Perfect.
Nice.
Okay, so up first is just a continuation of the discussion from last meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can pull up the latest what I had received for scores. Oh, it's not allowing me to do that. Let's try again.
You'll have mine by close of business today.
Okay.
Mark my words.
No, this is. Unusual. Okay, so I'm not sure why it's not letting me share my screen. But I can tell you, so one of the things we talked about last time is not just knowing the scores, but knowing the rankings. So I did want to share that for everyone that I received scores, I looked at who had the top score for that person, then the next, and so on. And then I averaged those out. And so in terms of rankings, Jackson Street averaged at 2.33. So 1 would have been the highest, or 6 would be the lowest. Then the COG Senior Companion Program was 2.44. Boys and Girls Club, there's kind of a drop to 3.44. Then Albany Helping Hands at 3.63, COPE at 3.67, and the YMCA at 4.3. So that was for the public service applicants. So I thought we'll start again with the public service applicants, because I think that's kind of where there's the most challenge. And I also had down from last week that there seemed to be consensus around funding Oregon Cascade West Council of Governments at their ask of $4,000. I'm going to try again just to see about screen. It's not coming up. And if I send this to you via email, do you think you'd be able to share it from the iPad, or?
I can just try to go to my desk and look at it, I guess.
Okay. It's the most recent one, because I had added scores since the time that this had to go out.
233 would be the highest, right?
Just print it, the one that I just printed, there are 2 versions.
It's not the one-page one because this has multiple sheets in it.
Oh, okay.
So it's the other.
So, so you click onto your screen?
Yeah, it's giving me like an error code.
Okay, is 2.
But then when I
higher
go up here, it says,
it was.
oh, it looks like it's pulling it up.
Organizations.
Perfect, Caitlin.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why that is, but
Yeah, I was hoping to have some discussion on the Helping Hands one with the DOJ letter. Kind of made me uncomfortable giving Am I there?
Everybody can hear okay for the owls?
Yeah, she
So is
tested
she
it before. It was
pulling
really
that?
clear. It's good. Oh, I'm glad the audio is good for everybody.
So is that what? I'll make sure, because it's hard.
We're still investigating it.
I'll see.
Yeah, quite. I think I read it, but I can't.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but just even the perception of they're misappropriating funds as it
Yes.
looked to our commission if we're giving.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I think what Ann had talked about last week was that have they made the appropriate changes that was brought up from the DOJ? There was a real investigation and things brought up, and did they make the proper changes for us to observe, but the case not being closed?
Yeah, and that's the thing, so they're trying, I know that.
Are they meeting the present expectations of request?
From what I understand, the investigation closed and they're taking the steps that are being asked of them. I don't know if they've completed all of those steps, but they are in process to,
Will there be another monitoring by the state after a certain time period?
Like a check-in or something, or?
that's not, I don't know the answer to that.
think they would.
I would imagine that there would be a follow-up. Makes sense to me, but
Yeah.
This is a state. Blade.
well, while we wait, it sounds like there is some discussion around Albany Helping Hands. Is there anything else people want to begin discussing? Do we want to just kind of go down the list and discuss where people are at with each applicant?
Can you hear me? This is Larry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Do you have a new figure yet on how much money is actually available for this group?
No, unfortunately, I checked this morning and they still do not have it posted. Here we go.
So we're
Thank
still
you.
looking at about 50,000, is that right?
Yeah, yes, that's correct. So here's the rankings, just to give kind of a different view of the information, the scores that I received. So I did want to kind of point out that it does seem like there's sort of this top tier of Jackson Street and Oregon Cascades West Council being pretty close. And then there's sort of that middle tier of Boys and Girls Club, Albany Helping Hands and COPE. And then below that seems like the YMCA just kind of generally didn't resonate with the commission. So that might be useful in thinking about, do we want to kind of have two tiers of funding where these top applicants receive a greater award and the second tier maybe gets a lesser amount? That would be one way to kind of look at that information.
I would be in support of that. And my personal take on the Helping Hands, I'd like to see some sort of compliance before, giving out money, like, some sort of proof that they have met their obligations or just my 2 cents.
Just for your.
I think my view is to include Jackson Youth, COAT, and OCW COG. Now that comes up to about 54,000, and whatever amount we get less than 54,000, perhaps subtract it a little bit from each one, or if it's just exactly 50,000, maybe eliminate the CW COG so that the two can be fully funded. I'd rather see if we can fully fund them rather than just partially. Then they're all out there scrambling for more funds and having to cut back. I'd rather allocate it all to each applicant that we approve as much as we can.
So your proposal would be fully funding COAT, Jackson Street, still the COG from last time, and then was there another in there, Albany Helping Hands, or?
No, I don't think, it doesn't sound like there's enough money.
Those three alone were the 54. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I guess I think I'd be more inclined to spread it, and partly because, or at least after we look at what they can do, because a lot of them, actually say, if I don't get the full money, I'm not gonna go scramble for more money, I'm just gonna scale back. So they actually could kind of pretty easily scale back.
Right.
And YMCA had a real problem, and Albany Helping Hands had a real problem. They did not look scalable. But I think most of the others said, yeah, we could just scale, adjust, the numbers without necessarily having to radically change things or necessarily get more money to do anything, right?
I'm gonna present a totally different thought, and I want any thoughts of poking holes in it. As this last week, thinking about all this, if everybody applies and meets all of the same requirements and puts all the same effort into this application process, and we have this certain amount of money, my conclusion, I guess, for myself was to fully fund the 4,000. And then I feel like I'm gonna get ridiculed here, but then to fully equally distribute to all the applicants. Just a thought. Is this, I know it's like where there's the ranking system that is appropriate, but I don't know why I'm coming from that thought other than
Fairness.
everyone does the same. If everyone meets the same requirements and they're all presenting their cause, for me, it's like, there's not one cause that's more important than another cause at this point for me. They're all serving the city in their capacity, and we have this amount of money, so why not fairly distribute those funds to each person? That's my thought.
That's your pitch.
That's my pitch.
So 10,000 each of the remaining after COG at 4,000.
Yeah.
Right. And that would be different percentages, because if you look at how much they asked for, it kind of aligns a little bit with how the rankings have come out a little bit. I mean, so the coach was a little lower, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jackson Street would be getting quite a low proportion of what they asked for too, and they ranked quite highly, but we're trying to shift away from that percentage base potentially, so maybe that's not as important.
If there was a max of 20,000.
Yeah, sure.
Like that,
Yeah, if there's a
everybody
max.
would be getting half.
Everyone be getting half, yeah.
If we had that kind of a cap in the future, if the goal is to support more agencies and because there's a variety of needs, then your proposal is helping to do that. And I guess the commission could determine whether there are any agencies, and we may have to communicate back again with them. Are you able to move forward with,
Yeah.
I mean, we did ask a lower amount, but we haven't said, a specific amount. But it seems like everybody is willing except YMCA. It sounds like YMCA is still going to provide the bilingual person. They're just taking funds from their sources.
I'm sorry, and I just thought that, again, the YMCA, they're big, they get different grants, and I think they have more of an outreach, and I still think that, their reason bilingual just doesn't fit into like what the Senior Companion does, like help seniors, and Jackson Street helps youth get ahead. And Colt, well, I know they do a good thing, but are they doing a good thing?
Yeah, I agree. The YMCA proposal is very very expensive with 10 people for $50,000. I would rather eliminate that one. And I do have a question about Boys and Girls Club also, because it's only for 10 weeks and then it's over. So if you cut back, give them less money, either all or nothing. If you give them just a portion of that, so what do? They cut it back to an 8-week program or something? I don't think it works very well.
They would serve fewer people with scholarships rather than cutting the time frame of the program.
But other people can still get into the program by actually paying for it.
Right.
So the program exists, it's just how many LMI people that need scholarships
Exactly.
would be able to get in.
Exactly, yeah, so.
Yeah, I guess I just would say again, my thought to add to that thought is, if we're going to have a pot of money and we're offering people to apply, and they apply appropriately, and it matches what this money goes towards, if we feel like it matches what the money's supposed to go towards. If they're applying for new shoes for their grandma or something, but if it does match what this money's supposed to go for, and they've all done the application appropriately, that's where I get stuck, is like, I don't think we are really here to qualify the impact or lack of impact that we're suspecting this, each agency to have.
What I would add to that is we have such a limited pool of money
Yes.
that, in my mind, it should be, maximizing how that money is used and how it's going to help the most people possible. We can't fund all of them. Like coat 850 or, Boys and Girls Club 135, versus like 10 or, the lower amounts, I guess, in my mind is we have tough choices to make, helping the most people we can with the limited budget we have.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So-
I agree with that. If we went with the idea that everybody who applies gets funding because they all meet the criteria, well, that's always going to be the case, that people are going to apply and they're probably all going to meet the criteria. So if we had 10 applications or 15, it would be down to really small amounts of money, and then they all have to do all the reporting requirements for that money. I just don't agree with that approach.
Alex Johnson, Commissioner Johnson.
So I'm eating so I'm not going to show my face. So my biggest concern is that what impact does this organization's work have on the city? And I know for a fact that COAT is ranked low with me because they provide food, but they don't take away any of the mess that comes behind it. The city's responsible for cleaning up after these people. So I appreciate the work that they do, but how they execute is a problem for me. And so I will rank them lower than everyone else. I'm just letting you know now. And then the other ones, I think the seniors, of course, I'm biased because that's my community. I'm a Medicare broker for probably 900 people in this city. And the other ones, the COG and Albany Helping Hands, I think you all know my feelings about Albany Helping Hands. I think that they have some work to demonstrate that they are using the money properly. And so they will not be in my top 3 or 4. And the Boys and Girls Club, I kind of agree with Commissioner Johnson. I think that they have a better opportunity to fundraise. I was in a fundraising meeting with them. They raised $140,000 in like an hour and a half. And so I believe that they would probably be lower on my list as well, even though I like the work that they do. Jackson Street, I've donated money to Jackson Street. I've donated money to the Boys Club and also COG and the YMCA. For my business and all personally. But Jackson Street for me would be one of the top ones. And COG for sure. The other ones are a toss up, and I'll just let it fall where we all come together as a collective.
I think that I'd agree with Skylar at one point, which is that it seems like it'd be nice if we could support all of them, but given that we have actually not that much money, I like approaching this from the standpoint of saying, what's the most we could do? What's the most bang we could get for our buck in terms of helping the community? And if we look at our priorities, which we kind of all agreed to, there's not a lot of that support of affordable housing. Well, none of these really do much in that space, but reducing homelessness, there's a big difference in terms of how much they help. Like, I think we all like Jackson Street because not only are they helping people, which everybody's helping people here, but the stuff they do seems to help prevent people from getting into the homeless situation, hopefully. Right.
Good path forward.
Right.
Yeah.
But don't they have a surplus that they have not been able to use that we've already given them?
I mean, they're working on it. So, I mean, again, if you're going back to evaluating applications and what they put in their application, I mean, knowing how much money they may be eligible from other sources, some agencies, because of the nature of their work, are able to apply for a lot more pots of funding. And youth homelessness is one of those kinds. So they've been really successful also in fundraising, but they also have more resources available to them than maybe a regular shelter might have. They're just really good at applying for money and finding those resources. But, in hearing what everyone is saying, it sounds like there is some agreement that determining what are the highest priorities. And maybe everything is a need. I know that some are struggling with helping preschool and summer programs, but if you think about it, you're helping people keep a job and stay employed. It paints a different picture. Now, economic opportunities is one thing. I mean, we have a lack of we have a childcare desert. And that's something that kind of came up in our latest action plan. Now we're helping fund family connections on the other side of that. But, the homelessness, which is just a real priority in our community, is that priority. I think you have some rationale for considering, either not funding some agencies because they're not addressing that first priority. Now, the problem is we didn't say that in our application. And then if you think about how many people can we serve with the most amount of money, I mean, I like to think of that way too, but then, certain programs just take a little bit more time and energy to do. It's tough, give everybody a little bit, see if they'll still provide the program. If they're going to do that, we're building relationships, we're helping out with a variety of needs. Or do you really want to zero in on a couple of key priorities? And I mean, like COAT, there's some concern about supporting and continuing the homelessness side. Now, what I had suggested when they actually did their presentation, let's focus those dollars on the case management side, where we're actually helping pay for the staff to help connect those individuals to resources rather than food and, blankets and tents and things like that, where we're just enabling them and providing those resources to keep them homeless. I think the best thing that CODE is doing is actually trying to get people in housing. It's that housing navigation piece. So if we shift the focus there a little bit, maybe there's a different thought about CODE, and it's not going to be 850 people. It's going to be fewer people, right? Because they're including every single person that they encounter every single day with a can of food or the brochures. They're not really talking about the Albany residents or the people that they're trying to get into Albany housing. So I'm not trying to throw a curveball, but I think that we do need to track Albany residents, and it might be good to focus on how are we reducing homelessness when you think about CODE and focus on that aspect of their program. I think they still need the money to help pay for the case management to get people housed, but I don't know if that would change things, but it may help those that are looking at homelessness but not wondering whether CODE is doing anything about it. That may be one way to look at it.
I'm sorry. And to you house people, you rent to people, stuff like that. And so with the case management with CODE, I guess my question is, and you're trying to get them into homes, what can you do? I mean, is there anything out there that they can get into that's affordable? I mean, if they're not earning anything, they can't get into stuff. So,
Well,
where does that go?
there's a lot of resources, whole team of effort,
Yeah.
They're helping people connect to resources that they aren't aware of, whether it's down payment assistance, finding housing. Maybe they need an address in order to get payments for Social Security or something, or phone calls, or help them get on waiting lists. They don't have a computer. I mean, it's kind of a bunch of that kind of stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that that there's more, that we need more housing. I mean, sometimes we do need more housing, and that's a whole nother thing. But I think it's helping people get themselves on a waiting list or the resources available so that they know what their options are. Where I don't know how much people are doing that on their own, So I think that CODE is trying to really help people, and whether it's doubling up or seniors, and I've heard Carol talk about how many people that they've helped get into housing. And it seems like they're actually doing that. And the same thing with the shelters. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have a need for shelters because we move them along, or it would just be emergency and not necessarily long-term. But because of the nature of the clients and lack of housing that has those supportive services, or for people that have medical conditions, there's just going to be a lot of people that stay in shelter, or lack of sex offender housing. And I think Emma did a good job, Commissioner Dean, last meeting, kind of explaining here's why people are unhoused for so long, because certain people need certain types of care. And unfortunately, our funds just can't help with getting more of those supportive housing units on the ground as easily. And so it is a struggle. What funds and what programs are going to do the most to further some of our issues and the goals that we had in the conference plan? So there was, affordable housing, providing public services, which includes, serving low and moderate income people, but also addressing homelessness. And then there's economic opportunities and accessibility. So those are I think the main themes. I can't find the list of stuff that we ended out for, but I think you guys are moving in the right direction. It's just a really hard decision.
It kind of sounds like, the two approaches. One is to just kind of say, once they're above the bar, we just do an equal allocation. The other is, let's do the best bang for get as much as we can. The problem with that is that it's such a complex space to know for sure that that's what we're doing. It's tough, because if you give money to some organizations that actually are really able to get, like, they didn't actually need money from us, then we're not actually benefiting the community as well as we could have. So you have to take into account what their sources of funding are, how well they've been using the money that we've already given them, and then line that up to, and then if you were going to do a good job, you'd have to understand how good each one of them is actually doing with respect to the citizens of Albany against the priorities, which we didn't actually communicate to them, right? And so that's a very complicated, uncertain thing. And so maybe that's an argument saying, while we would love to do that, given the small amount of money that we're talking about realistically for these people, maybe just the kind of, binary choice about are they in or out, and then once they're in, do kind of more or less even allocation might be the most.
I just think that we are responsible to a certain amount of money, $50,000, and we're inviting relationships that we have with agencies to apply, and they do the work to apply. And if they meet our goals, I just, I know it gets, but that's where my brain goes is, you did the work and we're inviting you to come and apply, and we want to maintain a relationship from a city standpoint to you on a long-term basis. Every year, we're going to be inviting the same agencies to come and apply for these funds.
Yeah, can I speak to that? So I think one thing that's important to remember is that we invite a whole swath of agencies to apply, and they make that choice depending on whether they think the funds are a good fit, whether they have capacity to do that application and fulfill the thing that they're applying for. And we make it very clear that this 15% is competitive funds, that there's no guarantee that just because they applied that they will receive funding.
I like that.
And so they have that awareness going in. I mean, nonprofit agencies, that is often the types of funding that they're going for, is competitive grant funding. And so I think that we, of course, want to maintain our relationships with these agencies, and I acknowledge whether we can fund all these agencies or not, they are doing important work in our community. But I don't think that, we don't fund someone that relationship disappears, because I think that there's more to it, than just we're trying to collaborate and support as best we can, and they know that, I think. So that would be just kind of my response, if that alleviates some of those concerns.
It's kind of like not everybody wins every time. Like
Right.
not everybody gets a trophy type thing,
Participation trophy.
Yeah.
So do you think that a lot of agencies don't apply because they don't think that they will get money, or because they know that if they get $5,000, they're just going to have to spend that much doing paperwork?
I think it's a variety of reasons.
Right.
I think for some agencies, the cost benefit of the requirements of the grant for the amount of money they might receive maybe isn't there. I think sometimes it's just not feeling like this grant is the best fit for what they're doing. So it's kind of, CDBG can be pretty specific about what is allowed. And so they don't have something that is exactly outlined in, what's eligible, then it doesn't make sense to apply. And then for the case of like the non-public service applicants, if they're doing construction, it can kind of increase their whole construction budget by some of those requirements. So I think there's kind of a variety of reasons. Even we had funded family tree relief nursery for several years in a row. And then one year they said, actually, we feel like we're pretty stable on our funding and this isn't a source we need anymore. And so we want other agencies to have that opportunity.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
it really just varies, I think, organization to organization.
Thank you, that helps, that helps.
So at the end of this, or does someone like make a proposal and we vote on it, or how are we gonna decide?
Yeah, so I think we'll try to reach that consensus and someone will make that proposal and someone else then can say, okay, I second that. You make a motion that we vote on this particular funding package and look for a second on that motion, then there'd be a vote.
So there's still a meeting 2 weeks from today, March 18th. I'm just thinking about our drop dead deadline to decide anything. And something that we didn't do was request information from Helping Hands and how they're saying that.
Yeah, we just got the letter.
Just items. I think that they tried to say that in their presentation to address some of the items, but you have to go back and listen to that.
For me,
Yeah,
I
a
would like
draft would
to,
be good, and then we can run stuff by the agencies. Maybe we'll actually know a number at next meeting. In a perfect world, okay, we'll fine tune the numbers and also maybe have a better sense of what the performance measures might be, because we actually have to have that action plan that includes these projects done by the end of this month. So, yeah.
So it sounded like, Jim, you were leaning towards kind of, let's go through them in or out, right? Like, are we going to fund them or are we not going to fund them? And then go from there in terms of splitting up the dollars.
Yeah.
Does that sound?
Yeah, that's good.
So
I agree with that.
from what I've heard, Jackson Street seems like people feel pretty comfortable keeping them as they will get some funding.
Yeah.
And similarly with Oregon Cascades West.
Yes.
Boys and Girls Club, there's been back and forth. So what are we thinking as a commission? Do we want to just take a vote yes or no on them? Or do we think that we can come to this by discussion, a consensus?
it's kind of hard, depends which way we go. If we're going Courtney's route, if we're spreading it over everybody, I would say yes. If we're, going, I think it was yours with the 54, then I would say no. So it's kind of hard to decide which route we're going to go. But the one thing I would add is if there's any way to get information from Helping Hands, that I feel like me personally, without seeing their action plan, I would be voting no to giving them funds.
Yeah, because the gentleman that came, it sounds like he's really trying to do a good job and stuff. You don't know, like you say, have they reached all of the priorities that they're given
Right.
to, or how far along are they?
Right.
That type of a thing. So,
Hypothetically, let's say they are in the clear, then how do you, or, then are they right there in the running?
I would say so, personally.
Because we are in a big swing. Last year, we said absolutely not, and we did less.
Well, that's because it was in the middle of the investigation still.
So now
They
it's like,
had started working on items. It's been a year. I think they have addressed some of the items. But I think,
In a year though, to not be able to address something that important kind of, to me, speaks volumes.
and we don't know, we just don't know, right?
yeah, I was just trying to find Don Sparks' email. I could just send him an email, but,
Maybe a year for something like that is a long time for funds.
At least for the things I read on the DOJ thing, I don't feel like,
Really?
I think having a year to get that in order would be that hard, but I don't work for them, so.
yeah, and that's the thing, they have new people.
Right.
I think the board is still intact, from what I understand. So that helps. They got some good people. It was just kind of.
Okay, so that just comes down to a factual, hey, they gave you your requirements. Did you meet those requirements? Can you just prove that to us? And the investigation is closed now.
That's where I stand.
What about for folks that are joining us online? I want to make sure that we're hearing from the whole commission, so not just those in the room.
Yeah, I think that we could, I would like to eliminate the YMCA to start off, and I could support the COG grant and Jackson Street, which will take up, that's 34,000. As far as the remaining three are concerned, I like the program of the Helping Hands the best. I think that's a great program. I've voiced my concerns about Boys and Girls Club because it's only for 10 weeks, and I'm not sure what the mayor's concerns are about COAT. That's new to me.
Quick question, could there be a requirement of getting trash picked up? Could we give it like, hey, here's $5,000 to make sure you don't leave trash?
So these funds really need to be used for, it's mostly staffing. I mean, even using them for purchases and stuff, it gets a little more complicating. And I mean, I just want to say it'd be a tough condition for us to support, which is why if you focus on the case management and not on the outreach and the cans and all that, you're not really focusing on the activity that is generating trash.
And we can stipulate, right, correct? We can stipulate that it's for staff or
Yeah.
Yes.
case
Yeah.
management.
Yeah, we could stipulate that it's used for
Yeah,
case management.
exactly. And then that would make it easier for us to
Yes.
just
Yes, it
provide
would.
time sheets and stuff like that. It would also mean that maybe the performance numbers are not going to be 850.
Right.
They can, as a side bonus, we've done all these other things that CDBG didn't pay for, providing the daily meals and outreach and connection with people. So I think they've been trying to build relationships with people.
Yes.
And until you build a relationship, there's a lot of level of trust that is needed from some homeless folks. And that's the first step, is to build a level of trust and then they try to bring them in. And of course, we don't have enough housing units, but I mean, they're trying to get people to, engage and want to get into housing. I think a lot of people that they're dealing with, especially I went out and did the counting at the rest stop. They're in their cars. I don't think that's by choice. People aren't sleeping in their cars. Now, some people that are camping, maybe have other issues going on and they don't want to be in housing, but there are people that want to be in housing. And I think COAT is trying to reach them through the outreach program.
So while we're kind of talking about COAT, what are we thinking of? Do we feel comfortable funding them with the stipulation that those funds would be used strictly for the case management and not some of these other outreach components of the program?
Can I jump in on COAT real quick?
Sure.
So one of the things I would encourage doing is checking in with COAT to ensure that case management isn't being funded by another grant, because they wouldn't be able to receive those funds for that. And I want to point out, like Ann said, that handing out of items, one, I 100% agree, agencies that are doing that need to have some accountability and the cleanup and working with individuals on keeping that space clean. That's also a relationship building, like Ann said, and a way for us to build trust with individuals that have a lot of trauma and need to trust the people that are working with them. And sometimes those items are life-saving items that are keeping people dry and alive through the night, when literally that can be the only option for them, is a tent and a sleeping bag until that case management program finds another option. And I think case management is amazing and really helpful and is working to help people get to the next step in the correct agency. So I love the idea of funding the case management piece. I just think we need to ensure they're able to receive money specifically for that.
That makes sense.
Any other thoughts about COAT specifically?
Yes, I have a comment. So Emma, you know what case management looks like, right? I trust
Yes.
you. I trust that from you. I trust you to teach us about that. My question is that do they have anyone that you can verify actually has case management experience?
I mean, I think Carol Davies does the majority of their case management. I know they've recently had some staffing changes, and I don't know what that new person will be doing, if it's mainly outreach or outreach and case management. But Carol does a majority of that case management, is my understanding.
And is she documenting that case management?
I don't know.
I mean, it's good to say, please hear me out. I'm not trying to be facetious, but somebody says, Alex, you're going to be a case manager, and I have no professional training or no certification and no direct background in case management. And I go out and I engage somebody in the community, right? And then you engage them. Where is there a paper trail? Is there they directed to CSC? I mean, I know for a fact that they're building the tiny home village, Security Housing Coalition. They're underneath that. And I know that Stacy's going to do a job of paperwork for those folks, but are they actually doing case management? That's the question.
Yeah, it's a good question. And with case management, there should 100% be a paper trail, especially with nonprofits that are grant funded.
Right.
There's almost always that requirement of providing data and proof of that work that's being done. I don't know their full program or system.
You guys understand my concern?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yes.
I think I would maybe rephrase it that they're sort of being housing and resource navigators. I think that they're doing the calls and the phone calls to all of the agencies that provide the different services. I mean, I don't know that they're helping a specific individual with their own personal issues. I think they're helping connect these individuals to those resources where there are the trained case managers. So, I mean, case management might have been the wrong term, but basically this is what I see. I see them, and I've heard Carol talk to the city council numerous times about how many people she's talked to and how many phone calls she's made to try to connect people and find housing or find whatever it is that they need that's an obstacle to their ability to get housing. And so it's helping people get into housing, whether it's actually case management, it's more of a housing navigator than a resource navigator is what I would consider. But I think a lot of people, like Jackson Street Youth Shelter, they have people that work with the youth when they come in to develop a plan. Hey, we need to work to make sure you keep your grades up. What are these things? And they help them maintain, work on their skills and make sure they go to school and work on the relationship building with their parents or whatever it is. And so I think that Carol's doing some of that, but whether those positions need and have a degree program, don't know. But I think that's a good issue to raise up, Mayor. It certainly is. I just think that what they are doing is that they are connecting people to housing. And we could get those numbers, and I'm not sure if it's been in a recent report from Carol with the current funding, but
I don't think that they've applied for reimbursement yet, so don't know that we have the documentation reporting yet, but they will obviously, when they request reimbursement, will need to show documentation of who they've served during that time and what the expenses were. So that is a requirement of our grant. So there's not any getting around that piece of it.
And I think the hallmark of case management is a file, a name on the file, and file in your drawer. And you can't have files in a drawer with hundreds of people in the woods. You just can't do that.
Exactly.
And yet, you still need to build relationships with them and help them move along some kind of path. A lot of them are going to fall off this path, and there's no 100% guarantee of all the people you're working with. But case management is it's a big need. And how many case managers do we have in this town who are really capable and trained? It's not enough. I know that for sure. It's not enough by
Yeah,
many.
they're not working with this population.
No.
they do training. I mean, there's trainings for people working with mental health, persons with mental health. I mean, I see stuff come through our email, hey, there's gonna be this training, and a lot of these agencies send their staff to these trainings, like Lynn County Mental Health is obviously your go-to expert for addressing those issues, but there are trainings dealing with different types of people, and I've heard Carol say and other agencies say that, hey, yeah, we're sending people to these trainings, and maybe Commissioner Dean knows a little bit more about it, but I think those happen fairly regular. I mean, probably annually or every.
And I think
you know,
they're
couple times a
partnering
year.
with those agencies that have the expertise
Yes.
in issues that are beyond maybe the knowledge of what the case manager or outreach specialist is doing, right? So they're connected to Lake County Mental Health, and from what I understand, they're connected with Chance as well, in terms of when there's maybe substance abuse issues. So I know that they're working together with organizations when they're encountering folks that have maybe specific needs that can't be met by that person.
Kind of an unknown for them, really. Who they're reaching, how many they're reaching, what they're doing with them, if they follow up with them. It's just kind of just don't know.
Well, you know, I do think that there's an effort for them tracking how many people they're doing outreach to, because they have those numbers. Whether or not all of those people are officially Albany residents maybe is a question, but they are tracking that outreach, those outreach numbers, and are heavily involved in the PIT count as well. And then, you know, in terms of case management, we'll see the documentation for that. So
I don't know if it's me being naive, but I guess I kind of want to believe if somebody's in that role, they're trying their best to, you know, help as many as people as they can. So
Yeah, we have safeguards, but I mean, it's not just like random money that's going out just nowhere.
right,
Everything's tracked and reported and
it's all reimbursement
reimbursed
based.
and
So
documented, so it's not so much that we're in the dark about what they're actually doing, but
And I wonder, in the 80/50, is that each person, or is that going to the same person 5 times?
that's each person, that's unique
It
individuals.
is, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that helps. 50?
Yeah. But that's including kind of, I think, a broad picture of what Albany resident means, you know, some of the areas around Albany as well. And we would obviously want to hone that in on specific Albany residents.
I don't know though if they're entering each time they reach to somebody, if it's going into the HMIS system though, because
That I don't know.
each visit could be separate encounters with some of the same people that have been sleeping at the shelter. That's what I think, because it seems like 850 is a lot, but you know, people may be homeless or houseless for a week or so, and then you've got different people cycling through. I mean, it very well could be, because where they go, they're visiting some spots in Albany, but also a few that are just outside.
so it's 850 touch points.
We could
She said
confirm
it was
that.
individual people.
Yeah, that's
I'm trying to
what I
pull up
remembered.
their application, but I think if we're focusing on who are they helping get into housing.
It's, that's gonna be, that number's gonna be less, yeah.
There are a lot of people out there that have been living in their vehicles and trailers, so.
So I feel like at this point, we are really struggling to reach consensus on some of what I have is Albany Helping Hands is sort of pending some more information. But then Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, and COAT we haven't reached a specific agreement. And so I'm going to propose that we kind of go around and give a yes or no on whether or not we think those should be funded, so we can see where the majority is at in the group. Does that feel like a good way to kind of push this conversation to a more clear answer?
Sure. Kind of picking up on what Jim said earlier is that we have two, there really are top tier, and that's Jackson Street and Uncog, with very much higher scores than the others. And one, however, is a much larger request than the other. And that may be another factor in thinking of how we would spend money or allocate money. But if those would constitute a top tier, and then the others, and then maybe it looks like YMCA is kind of dropped off the back a little bit. is a consensus, it's saying, so then that would leave three, for a lower tier, which perhaps the remainder of the money could be divided equally among those. I mean, that would be fun.
So am I hearing a fully fund Jackson Street and the COG, split the remainder of the funds among the other three applicants, exclude YMCA?
So it kind of seems the way a lot of the discussion is going, that captures what everyone's thinking.
Well, my view would be to fully fund the COG and Jackson Street and then give the remainder to, I'm fine with Coat. I think we have the questions with Albany Helping Hands, and if there are questions there, then it's just premature for us to fund that. I think Boys and Girls Club is $50-some thousand for 10 weeks, and there just isn't enough money to really make a big difference there. So I would say Jackson Street, COG, both fully, and then the remainder, whatever that ends up being, go to COAT.
I would support that.
I agree with that.
So that works out to,
How much is Code asking for?
they're asking for 20,000.
That'd give them 16.
Mhm.
I would.
Can someone reiterate what was just said?
So the proposal that I heard from Commissioner Tim was fully fund Jackson Street Youth Services and Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments. That puts the total at 34,000. Then we would have 16,000 remaining, and he is advocating that go to COAT.
Would there be strings attached to that regarding the process of cleaning up the messes and so forth? I mean,
I think we decided it wasn't reasonable.
The cleanup strings are hard for us to implement.
Yeah, I'm sorry, if we go the people, so-called case management, if they're really case managers or what, but at least they're out there, contacting people that way. Yeah, I think that'd be good for like 16, 30, and 4, or even, I was thinking, senior companions do a lot, and get seniors where they need to go. And I don't know if 4,000 is all they need, or.
That's what they
That's what
requested.
Yeah, so I'd say 16, 30, and 4.
So we did provide you with how much agencies asked for and how much they were awarded last year.
Yes.
But I mean, you guys are moving towards a path of just trying to fund the top needs, which is totally fine, but you'll see that this has come up every year. There's never enough money, and most projects have not been fully funded. I mean, so.
I would really encourage considering splitting that leftover money if we go this route between the Boys and Girls Club and COAT, because they could scale their project back to less scholarships, and just remembering that's a program that is allowing parents to continue working while having their kids in a safe space with support, and it could be scaled back.
I agree with that.
Okay, so that would put, that proposal would be 30,000 and 4,000 both for Jackson Street, and then the COG, what they applied for, and then 8,000 each for COAT and Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
8 each?
8,000 each.
Okay.
I mean,
That's fair.
you don't have to fund Jackson Street fully. I mean, that's another consideration, but I mean, that isn't anything that's been on the table.
It's in my brain.
We're getting close, guys.
Yeah.
We can do this.
I mean, next year, I would really
We'll do a
recommend that we have a cap. And so if we had a cap in place this year, I'm not sure if it would be 20 or 25, because if you want to support more than one agency, you really need to have a cap, right? And if we thought about a cap this year, maybe we'll fund them up to the cap so that then we can at least try to support a couple more agencies. We just don't have a cap this year, and you're using their application requests, and I don't know if that's, because some people ask for more and some people ask for less, and
You can do it.
More available.
Well, we have never not received enough grant applications.
And just like we're doing with the non-public service applicants, if we suddenly had this huge windfall of CDBG funds, we can always choose to overfund something, but it might that's very unlikely, and it makes the conversation of we never have enough maybe a little bit easier.
So I guess what I'm wondering is what's the difference between having a cap and Portland's proposal and saying, once you identify who's in, just spread it across?
Well, that's one way to do it. I'm just saying that if we'd had a cap of 20,000 this year, you wouldn't see any of these agencies asking for more than 20,000. You would see them capped at 20, and then you might go, wow, if we're funding half of what they asked for, that isn't so bad. I mean,
Right.
that's just one way to look at it, and whether it's spreading it all out so everybody gets some funding, or picking your top 3 or 4 and funding them as much as you can, with like the tiny ones, fully funding them or whatever. So, or fully funding to the cap, and then you might get a couple more agents, maybe one more agency. At the set of 3, you might be able to fund 4.
If we wanted to,
So the real answer is the cap is something to give to them, not something to just use the term. Once you give it.
You could do it either way, but we would probably want to just notify them so we don't get applicants that are way above what that would be, like $50,000 applicants. So one option based off this proposal too would be just to drop down Jackson Street Youth Services to 26,000 and do 10,000 each for Boys and Girls Club and Co. If you wanted to kind of adjust those numbers, that would probably be an easy way to do it.
or spread it, we could do 15, 16, and 4.
Yeah.
If we were operating with like a 20,000 cap.
I mean, I kind of like the process of kind of doing a binary vote on everybody, right? And then once you know who's in, just spreading it because
Yeah,
the
I agree.
judgment's really hard, right?
Commissioner Dean, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about the Albany Helping Hands? Oh, you
I
can't.
do believe that Commissioner Dean has
Yes.
recused
Never mind.
herself from that conversation, so I want to honor that.
No, absolutely, I apologize. I figured it would have been the best insight of a moment.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson,
Which one?
did you have any final thoughts about Albany Helping Hands to add? Or-
I just, honestly, I would just like to know that they have gotten their stuff together. And we are not giving money to an organization that's still either some level under investigation or haven't demonstrated the proper use of funds associated with the running of that shelter. That's the only concern I have. I mean, because this is what I don't want to happen. And this is one of the fears that I constantly, we give someone, allocate some grant funds to an organization, and then next year, because we gave them money before, then the DOJ investigation, we give them money again. If it's still being run the same way, then we have a problem. We've taken money to given money to an organization that could have gone somewhere else if they got their stuff, if they didn't have their stuff together. That makes sense?
I agree
Yes, it
with that
does.
concern.
Yes, it does.
And also, if we could inform Helping Hands that we'd be glad to take an application next year once we find out from DOJ or whoever it is that they are in compliance and there are no further issues.
Good.
I did send an email to Helping Hands while you guys were talking, and I heard back that Don can provide the information by Wednesday, how they're addressing concerns from the DOJ. But, I mean,
How they're
I
addressing
think-
them doesn't say that they've been addressed.
right, well, the CDBG funds, we have to be really careful with those funds because we do not want to be on the front page of the paper or have to pay that money back.
Amen.
Pay it back. I mean, I think I hear the concern. I express some concern that we just are doubly sure that everything is working out. I mean, they are serving a certain population in our community that is really hard to house, right? But we really need to make sure that I mean, it's not just the DOJ, it's all
Perception, community.
regulations. There's anything that might relate to employment law or discrimination and all that stuff, with all the agencies. We just have to make sure, and sometimes when you get some agency or a new agency, they may not understand that, wow, we have to be an equal opportunity employer. We just can't hire somebody we know, we have to go through the process or whatever it is. So, I mean,
There's no harm in an abundance of caution.
Exactly, so I'd say, like the mayor
I
said,
say no to them personally.
yeah.
It's just
me
helping
too.
my mind, like narrow it down. And then is there any, last thoughts on YMCA? Anybody that's saying, I don't know why we're taking them off the list, I really want them on the list.
Are they off? Is that?
Well, I'm just asking.
Right now,
Is there
the
any
kind of current
comments?
proposal that we have does not include the YMCA.
Yeah.
So
We
just
have
Oh, the
funding,
YMCA.
we've got
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
How about this? How about splitting the money, what we had for YMCA, go 50-50 YMCA Boys and Girls Club?
No. Because you're cutting it down to, because we're already have questions on how many they serve, and in the YMCA, it's just not.
Well, they also put, I mean, their note was that if they didn't get everything, it's unclear what they would be able to do, right? So, it's like,
Well, Chris said he'd find the money somewhere else. He's gonna do it anyways, so it
Exactly,
sounds like
yeah.
he doesn't need it. It'd be great if he got it, but doesn't need it, yeah.
Yeah, because he's really creative.
Yeah, I would say we pass on the YMCA.
So it sounds like the general consensus is no on the YMCA, so.
And I'm fine with that as long as there's not anyone saying, actually,
Yeah.
I really have a reason
Right.
to want to put them on the list. And that's what I just wanted to give space for.
Yeah.
Is 54,000 the absolute number? Is that sure?
so they're actually receiving $10,000 this year. They asked for 48,000 last year. So they're proceeding. Now, I don't know if it's for the same activity for the bilingual preschool. Might be something a little bit different, but we've been helping fund the preschool, which is helping get people, keep their jobs or get jobs, right? And this is money to help fund. I think they already have the staff person. They're just trying to offset some of the costs until the numbers are there where it's self-sustaining.
Eventually they'll provide.
Right, because they'll have enough people who are bilingual that will be paying for healthcare that will then make it self-sustaining.
So I still say take them.
Okay. So we have kind of a proposal that seems like people are okay with. So the proposal that I last mentioned, 10,000 to Boys and Girls Club, 10,000 to COAT, 26,000 to Jackson Street, and 4,000 to COG.
I would go with that.
Do we want to do a vote on that?
Run that by me one more time, please.
Sure. 10,000 to Boys and Girls Club, 10,000 to COAT, 26,000 to Jackson Street, and 4,000 to Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments.
Can I propose 15 to Jackson Street?
So propose
15, 16, and 4.
So what would be the other numbers?
It'd be 15 for Boys and Girls Club, 15 for COAT, 16 for Jackson, and then 4 for COG.
I agree with that. I disagree with the 15 for COAT, but that's just me.
Versus the full fund at 20?
Yeah.
Or you want to go at
He was saying
10?
I would say at the 10, somebody proposed 10 earlier.
Yeah, that's.
Can I ask your thoughts on that?
I just haven't seen proof other than words coming from that organization. Everybody else provides, they can show us documentation. COAT is underneath another nonprofit. They're not a nonprofit themselves. And so I would like to see some kind of structure or some kind of evidence that they're actually doing what they say they're doing.
So,
Okay.
so you feel uncomfortable at any level with that organization?
At this point, yes.
Well, that's why we're gonna vote, I guess.
That's why we're a committee, and I appointed every one of you, and I trust your judgment. Just I'm expressing my reservations as a commissioner.
Thank you.
And tomorrow we will be unappointed. No.
No, stop that, Bessie. Commissioner Johnson. I heard that.
Sorry.
Okay, so
So are you making that as a motion? on the 15, 15, 16, 4 package.
How's everyone feel about that?
15.
It is in alignment with my perspective of how to give out funds, so
My point is, do we want to
It's not
vote?
a motion yet, but.
It's not a
what's
motion
the
yet.
preliminary number here?
Whatever the number is.
4 for COG.
Or for COG.
Yep, we
This is what Skylar, or Commissioner Bailey had mentioned. So 4,000 for the COG, 16,000 for Jackson Street, 15,000 for Coat, and 15,000 for Boys and Girls Club.
I like the first one, 26, 10, 10, or 26, 10, 10.
So do I.
I like that one as well.
I could go along,
Love to hear
I could
why.
go with the 426. I prefer the 430, but
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it does seem like the 426 maybe is a middle ground between the proposals.
6, 10, 10, yeah. Because it gives the Boys and Girls Club a little bit more boost to get more scholarships that way. And code, it gives a chance to maybe pay some people to give the people in the right direction. And Jackson Street does do what we require by getting people out of homelessness and in the right direction.
So it sounds like we're kind of divided on whether to go the 10, 10 or 15.
Yeah.
Can we do like a
Difference?
show of hands maybe, and we go one way or the other,
Yeah,
or?
you could just put up those two proposals and take a vote.
Yeah.
You could do 13, 13, and 20.
Yeah, that's what I was
And
moving my towards.
If you get more than 50,000, you could decide to give it to, Boys and Girls Club or to Jackson Street, whichever agency you feel, you maybe want to fund.
I think I could probably go with that.
So 13, 13,
In
20?
between, yeah, in between.
Okay.
I don't know, I mean.
Yeah.
13 to who?
13,000 to creating housing, 13,000 to Boys and Girls Club, 20,000 to Jackson Street, and 4,000 to the COG.
I think it's going the wrong direction, but that's me.
I think it's going the wrong direction too.
And
Can you go back to 26, 10, 10? I mean, then figure out if we get more money, which agency would you want to give it to?
If we go back to our points, what's the word?
Scoring?
Our scoring, thank you. I can understand that we have a high scoring Jackson Street Youth Services.
We could go with the 430, and then whatever it ends up being is the final number, split those between Boys and Girls Club and Cope. We won't know what that number is. We think we know right now, but we don't know for sure.
So that's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
8.
so that's going the other direction. I
So
think
it really feels like there's sort of
there's just,
one camp that wants to do more for Boys and Girls Club and Coat, and one camp that wants to do more for Jackson Street, and COG's kind of the same regardless. So it's not my fight. I don't get a vote, but I am going to suggest that the kind of the in-between route might be sort of the best middle ground with 10, 10, 26, 4.
I like that better.
I like
Or
that.
13.
I do too. 10,
I like
10,
that one.
26 is good.
Yeah, 10, 10, 26, 4 works for me.
Okay.
All in favor?
I'd like
But
to get a
before,
motion.
okay, I want to hear a motion. That will be music to my ears. Before we do that, can we just agree if there's extra, if we somehow get more money than we anticipate, do we want to just split that evenly among these 4?
We should address that when we get that money.
So, or 3. Okay, so we want to hold off until we have the
I
number.
would say so.
Okay, all right. Let's.
I motion for 10,000 Boys and Girls Club, 10,000 for Coat, 26,000 for Jackson, and 4,000 for COG.
Second that.
Okay, so then we're gonna ask for all in favor.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
So we have a motion.
What is the opposed?
Are there any opposed?
Okay,
Motion carries.
Motion passes. Carried.
Okay. Now, can you guys hang in there briefly to go over the non-public service?
Okay.
So you guys had a chance to look at those. Essentially, Dev Northwest could maybe do one more house if they got the bulk of what was left over. Family Connections would likely just increase the grant amount that they would be giving to businesses rather than probably doing additional businesses. And then Cardva would be able to invest that in some security and other features of the house that they need to open up that shelter. So
They increased their ask, didn't they?
they all responded, yes, we'd happily take more money. So I did try to provide that additional ask, although I think it's on sheet 1, Caitlin, if you're able to go there. So we can't, now we have the same problem where we're over the amount we anticipate getting. And I would suggest, because each of these agencies would basically need the lump sum to be able to do the next thing, that I would suggest that you just choose one agency to increase their amount. Does that make sense?
And how much are we talking about, the total?
217, is that right?
Yeah, so I can tell you how much over we
Okay.
have.
Yeah.
Well, I think, in my opinion, I think Cardva is very important for the domestic violence victims. And I think, if I remember correctly, they said that they couldn't go on.
They just need the fence in order to open.
Yes.
And they would be getting the money that they requested for the fence.
There were some other things that they had.
They mentioned.
And the increased locks and the security surveillance kind of equipment.
I mean, it kind of seemed like Dev Northwest, I mean, they're asking for the bulk of it anyway. They would get the bulk of it anyway. And didn't have a specific, well, I guess they said they could fund more people, but it seemed to me like we had like $28,000 roughly that we're over, and kind of seemed like, well, we're fully funding them all. Dev Northwest is getting the bulk anyway. Maybe splitting that over between the other two, because they were both good.
What about, so I have Chance on my sheet. You guys have Chance on yours?
They remove their application.
So Chance is providing so much services to the city. I just.
Yeah. They retracted their application. There's some timing issues and
And that's why we have
this surplus.
Yeah. So Dev Northwest currently has 5 homeowners waiting for funding. So the new money may help do about 3 houses.
Okay.
So then it's the locks for Cardva, and then the Family Connections. It may not be any more grants. It just might be increased amounts, or maybe 1 or 2 more. I mean, I think the
Potentially.
difference, isn't it 20? What's the difference?
Well, that's in 125.
It's about $28,000 that we have additionally.
You said we have 20.
Yeah.
So if they 15, it's 10.
That could go.
Can you have that numbers on?
So the only thing is the agency request should be different on this. Just flip, just
Okay.
flip this.
All right. That.
Commissioner
I
Dean?
mean, if the difference is 20,000, isn't it $20,000?
28,000.
I mean, I would think that Family Connections could do a lot more. They're only giving out 5,000 grants.
Yeah, they
I
could
just don't
give
know
out
how
larger
many
grants.
childcare providers there are that are gonna be requesting grants in Albany. Right. So it's hard to know. They're requiring them to do a course first, which is a good idea. Whether we'll even use get 8 grants out of it, I'm not sure.
The revised number for Cardiff is 40,904, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And are the revised numbers for Dev Northwest and?
Right.
They didn't, Yeah, they didn't give me a specific number, but I told them,
Oh.
probably the surplus would be between 20 and 30. And I know that they usually need about $30,000 to be able to do one additional house.
Yes, and that's why it seems, since we only had 28,000 to give, that giving them more.
Might not be.
Doesn't really have much of an
Yeah.
impact.
So what about doing the CARDVA, their increased ask, and the remaining the family connections?
Actually, that would be reasonable, because you can fully fund
Yeah.
card stuff, yeah.
And
Which would
still
allow
give,
them to open the
still give
shelter.
family connections another $10,000.
What's the total ask is 40-something thousand for Carver, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
If, with an increase.
That's the increased ask, is 40,000.
2,000.
Is 40,000 more or just 40,000?
40,904 is their increased ask.
So it's an increase of 18,000.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Okay.
So we could completely give them that 18,000 and then have another 10,000 to give to.
Family connections, yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And family connections is how much?
And would that also give the Northwest their increase?
Yeah, not the increase. It would give them, it would fully fund their initial request, but just not the increase.
Oh, but they're just the 125.
The problem with that Northwest is another big chunk of money.
So family connections is similar.
30.
Yeah, like 30.
Yeah, they'd need like all of the extra.
Yeah.
Well, we can never have too many daycare.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
right.
we lost so many daycares during the pandemic that recovery is going to be a long process. I know that the Early Child Development Center at the Periwinkle Center at LBCC, I signed a letter requesting a congressional directed spending. I was disappointed I didn't see their application for this one, but they're going to put 70 kids under care when they open up soon. So any more daycare that we can do, we need to do.
So does anybody on the phone have an issue with fully funding CARDVA's increased ask and then giving the remainder to family connections?
No,
have a
I
problem with
love that. I just want to share, like, CARDVA having a space in Albany is going to be life-changing. Like, we have people that end up in shelter working heavily with case management for days, trying to find a safe space and having to put safety protocols in place at shelter. So this, like, meets a massive gap in our community.
I totally agree.
I agree too.
Do you want a motion?
Sure. So I motion to fully fund the increased ask for CARDVA with the remainder going to family connections.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor of what we just proposed?
Aye.
I
Are there any opposed?
Aye. No, I'm not opposed. I'm saying aye with the first group.
We got you.
So the motion passes.
Could you give me those numbers? Is it 4904 for CARDVA?
Yeah, so what I have down, just for simplicity's sake, is 40,900 and 1,900 and then 125 for Dev Northwest.
So if additional money comes in, can we look at that? Is that possible?
We will look at that, yes.
50,000 and 125.
51 for family connections. Is that correct?
Yeah, 51,900 is what I have.
51.
So what is that? What was their original ask, like 40?
42,254.
Yeah.
Family connections is 70.
Okay.
Do we,
I absolutely love the discussion. I'm happy that all of you, I appointed every one of you, and you accepted the offer to serve. So thank you.
Yeah, it was great.
yeah, that's good. Thanks, Alex.
So I think we'll
Is there-
table the fair housing goals till next meeting.
Is there any business from the public?
I did not receive any.
Do we have any business from the commission?
No. And I didn't think I'd be excited to come to a meeting, so I had a doctor appointment for this, and I thought, I gotta get done, I gotta get back.
Really
It's been really good.
Yeah.
I
This
mean,
is a good commission. I really like the way that this group of people beautiful words.
I do too.
It's good. Good
It's not
information.
stamp, it's all kinds of ideas. I'm sorry.
When's the
Commissioner,
next meeting? When is the next meeting?
that's perfect. You're queuing.
Yeah, 18th, right?
It's gonna be March 18th, noon, same location.
And Beth, I am absent for that. Sorry.
Nope, I think we have you down. Thank you for that.
And I officially adjourn this meeting at 1:20.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.